Attention passionate Atlanta, Falcons fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC South and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Atlanta Falcons' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Atlanta Falcons fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Atlanta, FALCONS FANS. Let's get to the news. Now folks, the NFL offseason is always full of surprises, and this year is no different. The Atlanta Falcons, a team that's been quietly building, looking to take that next step towards playoff contention, are once again caught in the whirlwind of roster shuffles, rumors, and strategic moves that could define their future. As we all know, the NFC South has been a bit of a wild card in recent years, with teams like Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Carolina also trying to find their footing. But what's really catching everyone's attention right now is the possibility of the Falcons making a splash in the free agent market, specifically with two veteran defenders who are currently on the open market, Jermaine Pratt and Jaire Alexander. And no, this isn't just idle speculation. These are names that could seriously reshape the Falcons' defense if the stars align. Let's start with Jermaine Pratt. For those who follow the Bengals closely, Pratt's name has been a familiar one over the last few years. He was a key piece in Cincinnati's defense, especially during their deep playoff runs in the 2021 and 2022 seasons. Pratt, a linebacker, has always been known for his tackling ability, his instincts, and his leadership qualities. In fact, last season, he ranked among the top 10 in total tackles across the entire NFL. That's no small feat when you consider the talent at that position. He was also a team captain, a sign of the respect he earned in Cincinnati. But as we all know, NFL rosters are a revolving door, and sometimes, even valuable players find themselves on the outside looking in. That's exactly what happened to Pratt when the Bengals decided to go in a different direction. The team was unwilling to meet his demands for an extension or a pay bump, and so Pratt was released after the June 1 deadline, making him available for teams like Atlanta to target. What makes Pratt intriguing for Atlanta is his experience and his ability to step in immediately. The Falcons have been searching for a reliable inside linebacker who can both stop the run and cover in passing situations. Divine Deablo, their recent addition, is a promising player, but at a 2-year, $7 million deal, he's more of a project than a finished product. Pratt, on the other hand, with his proven production and leadership, could be a perfect fit. Now, the question is whether the Falcons will be willing to pay what Pratt is asking for. His previous deal with the Bengals was worth about $75 million annually. It's unlikely that the Falcons would offer him a better per-year figure than that, especially considering they've already invested in Deablo and have other roster priorities. But if Pratt is willing to come at a reasonable price, he could be a valuable addition, especially as a middle linebacker, a position where Atlanta has been searching for stability for quite some time. And then there's Jaire Alexander. Now, if you're a Falcons fan, you probably remember Alexander's name because he's been considered one of the top cornerbacks in the league. At least, he was during his early years. A two-time Pro Bowler and a second-team All-Pro, Alexander was once viewed as a shutdown corner, capable of blanketing the best receivers in the game. But the last few seasons haven't been kind to him. Injuries have limited his playing time, and his performance has sometimes fallen short of expectations. The Packers, a franchise known for their patience and strategic thinking, have reached a point where they're willing to part ways, especially considering Alexander's health issues and inconsistent availability. Since 2019, Alexander has only played one full season, his rookie year, and in the past 4 years, he's only managed to stay on the field for about half of the games. That's a concern for any team contemplating a big investment. Because, let's be honest, the most important trait for a cornerback in today's NFL isn't just talent, it's availability. A shutdown corner who's always hurt is pretty much a ghost on the field. And Alexander, despite his talent, has been a headache in that regard. His name often came up during Packers press conferences, and by the end of his tenure there, it was clear that the front office had grown frustrated. And why wouldn't they? If a player gets his big payday and then continues to struggle with injuries or performance, it signals to management that maybe it's time to move on. That's exactly what the Packers are doing now, releasing him and trying to recoup some value before he hits free agency. From the Falcons' perspective, bringing in Alexander could be a gamble. Sure, he's got the talent and the pedigree, but can he stay healthy? That's the million-dollar question, and it's a question that's haunted him throughout his career. His high-level skills in man coverage, once considered elite, have taken a hit, and his instincts and ball skills might be better suited to a zone-heavy scheme. Still, the Falcons' secondary needs depth and playmaking ability, and if Alexander can stay healthy, he could provide just that. But at what cost? That's the tricky part. The market for Alexander will likely be competitive, and he'll probably command a significant salary, possibly more than what the Falcons are willing to pay given their recent history of cautious spending. Now, what's interesting here is the broader context of the Falcons' roster-building approach. Last year, Terry Fontenot and his staff took a bit of a let's-roll-the-dice approach with some of their veteran signings. Players like Matthew Judon, coming off injury, and Justin Simmons, who was on a decline, were brought in with the hope that they could still contribute at a high level. Judon especially provided some flashes of his former self, but his overall impact didn't justify his third-round price tag, and Simmons was a disappointment. The lesson here: the Falcons are aware of the risks involved with high-priced veterans who aren't quite at their peak anymore. They're trying to find that balance between experience and youth, between proven production and potential upside. In this context, signing Pratt or Alexander would be a bit of a gamble. Sure, they bring talent, experience, and leadership, but both come with question marks: Pratt's contract demands and Alexander's health. That's the reality of NFL roster management. Sometimes you take a risk, and sometimes you wait for the right opportunity. But the Falcons are at a crossroads. They want to contend, no doubt about it, but they also have limited resources and a desire to build a sustainable, long-term team. That's why they're probably hesitant to overspend on players who might not be able to stay on the field or produce at the level they once did. And let's not forget the bigger picture in Atlanta. The team has been trending upward, especially on offense with the development of their young quarterback and the emergence of their playmakers. But the defense remains a concern. Adding a veteran like Pratt could bring some much-needed stability to the linebacker core, especially if he's willing to sign a reasonable deal. Similarly, upgrading the secondary with a talented but injury-prone corner like Alexander could bolster that unit, provided he stays healthy. It's all about balancing risk and reward and finding players who can give you value without breaking the bank. There's also the matter of the NFL's evolving landscape. The league has shifted towards faster, more versatile defenses, where hybrid players and athletes who can cover multiple roles are highly valued. Pratt fits that mold perfectly. He's explosive, he's a tackling machine, and he can handle both run support and coverage duties. Alexander, on the other hand, offers the potential for a game-changing corner if he can stay healthy and regain some of his former elite form. It's a gamble, but one that could pay off if the Falcons hit the right notes in negotiations. Of course, it's not just about these two players. The Falcons are always looking at the bigger picture, drafting well, developing talent, and making strategic free agent moves that align with their long-term plans. They've shown patience and calculated risk-taking in recent years, and this offseason seems to follow that pattern. They want to improve, but they also want to be smart about it. That's why, even with these big names on the market, they're probably weighing their options carefully, trying not to overextend themselves on players who might not fully fit their system or who might not be available for the entire season. It's also worth noting that the Falcons are in a unique position right now. They have a quarterback who's promising, a roster full of young talent on offense, and a defense that's still evolving. Adding a veteran like Pratt could provide that leadership and stability, especially in the middle of the field. Meanwhile, a cornerback like Alexander could help lock down the secondary and give the team more flexibility in their coverage schemes. But again, everything depends on the price, the fit, and the commitment to staying healthy. Looking ahead, the upcoming months will be crucial. The Falcons need to make decisions that will shape their roster for the 2024 season and beyond. Will they gamble on these veterans, hoping that their talent still outweighs their risk? Or will they focus on younger, cheaper options that might have more long-term upside? The truth is, The NFL is a game of inches, and sometimes, the difference between a division title and missing the playoffs is just a couple of smart moves in free agency or the draft. What's clear is that the Falcons are not content with resting on their laurels. They're eyeing the NFC South and the path to Super Bowl glory with determination. They know that adding a veteran linebacker who can step in immediately or a cornerback who can change the game if healthy could be the pieces that push them over the top. But they're also cautious, aware of the history and the pitfalls of overpaying for past their prime players. It's a delicate dance, balancing short-term gains with long-term sustainability. And as fans, we have every reason to be excited. The upcoming season could be a turning point. With the right additions, the Falcons could finally break through the division and make some serious noise in the postseason. But it all depends on the moves they make now, the negotiations, and the health of their roster. So keep an eye on these names, folks. Pratt and Alexander are just the tip of the iceberg in what promises to be an intriguing offseason for Atlanta. The team's management is clearly looking for value, for players who can contribute immediately, and for those who can help build a foundation for sustained success. And now, Atlanta Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Would you like to see the Falcons sign Jermaine Pratt or Jair Alexander? Do you think they're worth the risk, or do you prefer the team to focus on younger, more cost-effective options? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Falcons. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Atlanta Falcons news. Whether it's roster moves, draft prospects, or game analysis, we'll keep you covered. Thanks for being part of this journey, and let's keep supporting our team no matter what.